me from that dock, so I would just pull my scouts to fight this.
But Wham's pulled a villager for an outpost. Now, this is quite the bait. I don't like this. We've seen how underwhelming outposts are up against fishing boats. The only way this works for Wham is if he could have got one on the central island. And I feel like it would be too late now. Like, the first fishing boat could come out in time to combat.
Wham, are you drunk?
No. This is you'd think
it's
he
fine.
is.
It's fine because the fishing ships don't do enough damage.
Exactly.
Clever.
They suck. They're absolutely terrible.
This is very clever. So, for those of you that don't know what's happening, the deli fishing ships can fire arrows, but their damage is so minimal that the passive repairability of the docks will be able to compensate for it. So, in a first glance, you might be looking at this and say, hey, why do you make fishing ships on a pond where your enemy can make his fishing ships that will fire at you? But at a second glance, you're not gonna kill the HRE fishing ships here anyways, so this will just be the players sharing the pond.
Wait, yeah, and they are sharing the pond. Look, see, the civilizations are so familiar with each other, they have paths to each other's dock. I think that's the first time I've actually seen that.
I love that little... that's one of the clumsiest and funniest feature of the game. Because the thing is that the way it should work is that, you know, I guess back when they started designing the game, they were like, okay, city builder games, how do you build fancy cities with streets and roads and whatnot? And they've gotten to the point where they said, oh yeah, it's probably not a good idea to make players build roads. We will just have those added automatically as aesthetics. So you have roads automatically, or at least patches of roads being built between your buildings. But for whatever reason, when two buildings from two different players are near each other, you still get patches of roads being built. Can be sometimes annoying because sometimes it actually showcases or shows tower placements from opponents that you may have not spotted otherwise.
I think what this is showing is that in Alpha, someone on the design team got confused and didn't know the difference between Anno and AoE. Now, they are similar spellings, but one is indeed a city building game. Because, yeah, as you said, this looks like a different kind of game to me. This is going to be a very different game. Like, seeing the HRE combat like this, it might seem a bit clumsy. You might be like, oh, but B will eventually build enough fishing boats to go through the repair. Yeah, but by the time B does that, Wham's going to be feudal. And when he's feudal, he builds galleys. Galleys kick the living crap out of anything the deli can do on water in the feudal age.
Exactly. Dao is not exactly the unit that you want to go for if you're the deli over here. So, as you said, if you're able to nail a comparable feudal age timing here with the HRE, which you should be able to do, then your galleys will be able to push away the deli player from the water.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing, like Dao. Sometimes when I just look at it, I feel like I want to take the first two letters out because it is ow. It's ow for me. It's ow for my economy. It just, if you look at the price of it, you wouldn't think it costs that much for how little it does. Even less so ever since the changes. Like, you have to remember they changed naval combat now so you can't move and fire. Ever since that change, galleys are now kings.
Ooh, tower is coming up over here, and it's not going to do much against the fishing ships of the enemy, but it is good set up to deal with enemy DAOs in the future, but more importantly, it is set up to deal with spearmen, because one thing that B is doing behind this one is adding spears.
It's almost like Wham may have seen B's game earlier. Because B is basically doing a similar build. Like, the scouts, like the spearmen rather, were more imminent in that one, because you remember BC was trying to tower rush him. But like, it's still the same kind of configuration. Docks into spears early to harass. And Wham is reading both these moves and reacting appropriately multiple times now.
He did end up losing a villager here on the central area thanks to those fishing ships, but for now, he is going to have his own fishing eco, and when both players do have fishing, the HR eco is going to be much, much better than what Delhi have.
Especially if you keep villagers around here, maybe start getting them some shoreline fish as well, which... once you get in the galley, once you start getting rid of these fishing boats, can happen. And keep in mind the galleys kill fishing boats very quickly, like 60 damage per round of attack because they do 10 damage and 6 bursts. It's a hefty amount. DAOs can't even remotely compare. This is a nice move out of B, though. Trying to go after the base instead. Realizes that the dock expansion is wasted effort. Problem is, with 1 or 2 spearmen alone, this doesn't work. You probably need to pull a villager and think about doing some of those naughty outposts.
Yeah, static defenses for the time being. It's going to be sufficient to push away the spearmen. B's actually going pretty heavy on those. He went all the way up to 6 spearmen. And so far, it is somewhat unlikely for him to be able to do damage with those. Because, as you said, Vam has read the play very well. Once again, looking at that very weird-looking Dark Age barracks from the Delhi. And I'm just now realizing the reason why this is impactful, the reason why I even spotted that is because that just tells you one thing. B is not even aging yet.
Yep. Yep. It's a problem right now because not only are you now investing in fishing boats, which do have a delayed trigger before return economically big time, sure they will. But in the meantime, like, you're being delayed. And actually, it looks like Wham slowed down the push of fishing. Is going to get the galley out now. Understandably so, because if you look, B has enough fishing boats. He can start to put dents into ships, even when they're being repaired by the dock.
B is in big trouble over here because it's one thing he's not going into feudal age, but he has 88 food in the bank and he's about to have his entire food eco absolutely devastated. This is looking really grim here for B because he might be stuck in feudal age, or dark age rather, for a long time.
I think he's going to go outpost rush in the end. I think that's his only choice. It might work as well because Wham's now investing in galleys. Galleys are quite pricey at this stage
Only
of
one
the game.
villager building it. If you can snipe down the villas, it's over.
Galley. Yep.
Oh, it's difficult. Spearman body
Snipes
blocking
out.
the snipe. There's two more
wait,
villas.
did he not finish it?
No,
He got
two
the
more
score
villas building
instead.
it.
Pulls more for it, but they're dying instantly in one wave, one flurry of attacks. He might still deny it. This is going to be too tight. Final villager goes down. B. Heavy hit there. And look at this. The galley is getting mildly tickled by all this. It's being everything. Optimus Prime has arrived in the central little pond here. And he's ripping apart all the Decepticons.
He's focusing on the Spearman as well to make sure that B has nothing that he can garrison into that tower. You see that those fishing ships, you have like 10 of them, but they're not doing anything. And B needs to save this. B is still in Dark Age, the only combat-capable unit that he can do at this spawn is fishing ships, but it's insufficient.
Wham! Whips out one galley. That galley says, no, I'll take you all on. You
Oh,
really
villager!
are bees.
Oh, he's trying to sneak the villager!
No, not today, sucker. Another one goes down.
And now a second galley pops out.
Good lord.
And look at the placement
That's
of the
it. Your economy's
galley.
gone.
He's setting
What?
himself up to cut off new
go back,
villagers.
B. I'm the bartender right now. I'm cutting you off. I'm taking this away from you. You've had too much. Accept it. The dock is dead. Find a new strategy because this just ain't it.
And I feel like we can summarize what's happening in this game in the comment that Marine Lord just posted to the chat. I'm making food, please. Don't die in 10 minutes.
Just imagine, like, I'm not surprised. Like, 2 galleys is overkill. 1 galley decided this game. Game 1 very quickly in the bank for Wham.
As you said, he read the game plan of B here perfectly, and he was able to adapt to this one. Swift strike and a very fast win over here in the favor of Wham01 moves into match point in less than 10 minutes of gameplay time.
Now, y'all say what you want about B, but if anything, I'm gonna say he gives you interesting games. You know, I'm keeping a checklist right now. Every single game from B I've seen on this broadcast of the Road to Wololo has been interesting. I can definitely say that. Whether he wins or loses, this guy plays a very different style of Age of Empires 4.